Hello everyone, happy Friday, and welcome to IGN's weekly show, Where is Xur? The show where we find Xur and we look at his inventory together. Today you can find Xur on the moon of Nessus. He's over here in the north at a place called Watcher's Grave, appropriately spooky for Halloween. Let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, once you've landed on Nessus, go ahead and hop on your Sparrow and go straight ahead. You'll see some people hanging out on a branch usually up there, and that is where Xur is. They're obviously gathering to look at his inventory. And here we are. Let's go ahead and see what he's selling. Alright, so this week his exotic weapon is the Queenbreaker. This is a very cool fusion rifle. If you don't already have it, pick it up, but not much else to say there. Then we've got Khepri Sting. This is a very good hunter exotic that helps with going invisible and just using smoke bombs in general. Then we've got ACD 0 feedback fence, a decent enough Titan pair of gloves. I should probably mention that the gloves are pretty good for a exotic. The very high up there, like 69 or what have you, is not very attainable, at least with Xur lately. However, a 64 here on Khepri Sting and a 65 on the feedback fence are pretty good. Similarly, we've got Getaway Artist. Unfortunately, this one is 63, which I would say is probably below the threshold of consideration, at least for me personally, for an exotic. Maybe the same could be said about Khepri Sting. 65 is probably the bare minimum you want to go. I'd try to aim for 66 to 69. However, Getaway Artist is a good arc-based warlock exotic, so if you don't have it, pick it up, as can be said for really any of these, especially Khepri Sting. I'm quite a fan of this exotic for hunters with Void 3.0. Alright, let's check out the legendary weapons. We've got the Whispering Slab. Again, Xur seems to keep selling this weapon, and it doesn't really get any better, but I wouldn't pick this up, especially when we've got Wolftone Draw, which I really like this roll this week. This is a very reliable bow in general, and Impulse Amplifier, which increases projectile velocity and reload speed, is very good on bows, in my opinion, and then also Dragonfly, which is really just good on any weapon, but especially on bows where you're killing almost always with precision damage, so quite good. It's also got a draw time masterwork, so in general, this is pretty dang good for this weapon, so if you don't have a good one, pick it up. We've got Dire Promise, auto-loading holster, great. Osmosis, not that great. I would skip this weapon. Ikelos SR, this is a very reliable sniper rifle, as many of you know. However, I'm not huge into some of these perks, so I'm going to be skipping this one this week. Far Future, same situation. Surplus and Wellspring, not my favorite perks on a sniper rifle. And Honor's Edge, which he sells all the time, is also kind of just mid and very, very similar to every roll he sold every week. Night Watch, however, I quite like. Outlaw, which is, of course, great on a scout rifle where you're reloading. And also Moving Target, which is very good since you're always going to be aiming down the sights with this weapon. It also has a range masterwork, which is pretty good on a scout rifle, so if you're looking for a reliable kinetic scout, you could do much worse than this. And finally, we're going to move on to the legendary armor. First up, because I'm playing on my Titan, we'll look at the Titan stuff. Titans this week, I believe, yeah, they've got one roll that's pretty decent, but these gloves at 62 with high recovery, high strength. Love the spikiness. Unfortunately, the stats overall are just too low to be considered. 59, similarly, do not buy this, even though I love that it's got 2 mobility and high stats elsewhere. It's just too low stats overall. For the helmet, 63 is sort of right on the cusp of what I might consider. Unfortunately, this roll is, the mobility is a little bit too high and everything else is sort of just middle tier. It is quite nice if you're looking for a very well balanced legendary, but that's not really what I look for, so I would probably skip this. And then finally, the boots, which unfortunately, they've got the highest stats of any of the legendary armor being offered to Titans this week, but it is extremely high mobility. So I guess maybe if you've got an edge case where you want a very high mobility stat Titan, you're doing Arc 3.0, some build I can't even fathom, pick this up. But otherwise, I certainly will probably hang my head in sadness and not pick this one up just because it's got too high mobility. 64 overall stat points, though, for a legendary is pretty good. So if you are interested in mobility or just want a high stat, item. This is not bad. And with that, we're going to move on to our next class. And here we are to take a look at the Warlock inventory. So checking out his armor down here, I think Warlock's got at least one. Oh, actually no. So yeah, it looks like this week Warlocks don't have a ton. 63 is probably the lowest I would ever go with a legendary piece of armor. And Warlock's role has a pretty decent mobility, intellect, and strength, but everything else is low. And I personally wouldn't pick this up. Maybe you need it, I'm not sure. But everything else, 62 overall, 57, definitely don't buy that, and 59. Warlock's got a little bit skunked this week, so we're going to go ahead and just move on to our final class. Alright, and now we're going to take a look at the Hunter armor. Hunter's actually made out the best this week. They've got this 62 pair of gloves with high mobility, which might be good if you're a hunter who likes to be fast. Unfortunately, the 62 overall, I probably wouldn't recommend it. Similarly with this vest here, pretty decent stats overall. It's got a few areas that fall short, but 62 overall is not really enough to get excited about. But moving on to the helmet and the boots, they did pretty well. They got 64 over here on the mask. The cool thing about this is it's actually got two areas in which it's very spiky, resilience and intellect. So if you're trying to build some sort of loadout that's got high resilience and high intellect and you don't really care about the stats elsewhere, this is pretty good. Also just gives you a boost in those areas in general. The boots are a little bit more balanced. They've got higher strength, intellect, and recovery, low in the other areas, but not so low that it's just got a bunch of 2s everywhere. So if you are interested in either of these, 64 is pretty good for a legendary, and these rolls aren't bad either. They've got some areas that they're spiky in, which is generally what I look for in my armor. And that's it for Xur this week, everyone. Hopefully this was useful to you guys. We will be back next week to look at Xur all over again and see if he's got some nice loot for us. I'm Ty Guy Travis, and as always, for everything related to Xur or Destiny 2, stick with IGN.
You are here. It means the night.